On August 9, 1965, the Republic of Singapore was born. But this was no triumphant declaration of independence. It was a forced expulsion from the Federation of Malaysia. Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew announced the separation in a televised address, fighting back tears. He had spent his political life believing in a unified peninsula, and the severing of those ties left him in profound anguish. Overnight, the island was geographically severed from its hinterland. It was completely cut off from traditional markets and had virtually no natural resources, not even enough fresh water to sustain itself. The domestic reality was just as grim. The streets were lined with overcrowded, highly flammable squatter settlements with poor sanitation, and the national unemployment rate hovered dangerously at 12%. Looking at these deficits, international media and foreign diplomats widely dismissed the newly sovereign state as a non-viable entity. The global consensus was that economic collapse was inevitable. To survive, the state needed to attract global capital, but they faced a systemic barrier, a deeply ingrained culture of corruption from the colonial era that made foreign investors extremely hesitant to engage. The government empowered the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau with a highly unique legal framework designed to eradicate graft at every level. They introduced the presumption of corruption. If a public servant receives gratification, it is automatically assumed corrupt. This created a reverse burden of proof. The accused must prove their wealth was acquired legally, otherwise their assets are confiscated. This strict oversight doesn't stop at the shoreline. The law applies extraterritorially, meaning the state actively prosecutes its citizens for bribes handed out in other countries. Establishing this uncompromising rule of law provided the exact economic prerequisite multinational corporations were looking for. By flawlessly integrating itself into global supply chains, the state effectively manufactured an artificial hinterland. The entire global economy became its market. Still, physical infrastructure was useless without a reliable workforce. The population remained largely uneducated, fractured into ethnic enclaves, and lacked a cohesive national identity. The government tasked the Housing Development Board with clearing the flammable slums and moving the population into rapidly constructed public housing estates. They built wealth through the 99-year tradable lease, turning poor renters into homeowners holding tradable assets. To prevent ethnic rioting, the government mandated strict racial quotas within every block, forcefully integrating the population into shared neighborhoods. Simultaneously, they rolled out a survival-based education system. Schools focused on technical training, designed to churn out the exact labor force those foreign-owned factories required. These policies were strict social engineering. They linked home equity and stable employment to the nation's economic output, giving citizens a literal financial stake in the survival of the state. Today, the island is a high-tech financial hub. Its GDP per capita surpasses much of Western Europe, and its port handles over 30 million shipping containers annually. This academic essay analyzes Singapore's modern growth model. It argues that reliance on multinational corporations and cheap foreign labor created a political economy of subsidy. Overconfidence in these subsidies suppressed domestic innovation, leaving parts of the economy bloated and inefficient. Compounding this issue are these modern headwinds. The population is rapidly aging, operating costs are rising, and global competition is fiercer. In response, Singapore launched the Skills Future initiative. It is a state-funded push toward lifelong learning, aiming to continually upskill human capital at every stage of a citizen's career. They are actively attempting to transition the workforce out of traditional labor-intensive models and build a self-sustaining, knowledge-based economy driven by local capability. The true lesson of this economic model is that security doesn't come from a perfect formula. It comes from an unsentimental willingness to continuously tear down and rebuild your own systems when reality demands it.